27-year-old Seth Rich was murdered outside his home.
Violently attacked on July 10th near his Washington, D.C. home while chatting on the phone with his girlfriend.
Seth Rich was an active Bernie Sanders supporter.
Politics had drawn the Omaha native to the city, and he was working at the Democratic National Committee when he died. The case is still unsolved. D.C. police theorize it was a botched robbery, the latest in a string of attacks in the neighborhood.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is raising questions about the killing, offering a big reward for information, and that is fueling political conspiracy theories.
That was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. We don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States.
Conspiracy theorists suggest Rich may be connected to the tranche of emails leaked by Assange's group just before the Democratic convention.
Did Seth Rich leak the emails?
The claim was that he was the source of the DNC emails about the Hillary Clinton campaign that WikiLeaks released later that month.
I mean, there's no question that Assange is making this about WikiLeaks, right? By WikiLeaks offering a $20,000, remember, the police are offering $25,000 anyway, right? He's adding $20,000.
Although Assange would not say whether Rich was a WikiLeaks source, the organization is now offering a $20,000 reward. Rich's parents say they welcome the reward and any help catching his killer, but are strongly denying any connection between their son's brutal murder and politics or conspiracy.
You have sources at the FBI saying that there is information could link Seth Rich to WikiLeaks?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's confirmed.
2 days later, Wheeler backtracked, saying his statements were a miscommunication.
Some are attempting to politicize this horrible tragedy, and in their attempts to do so are actually causing more harm than good.
Who killed Seth Rich?
Excuse me, Seth Rich with the DNC. I think several of you have spoken about provisional ballots and rejected ballots. How do we get better access to data that tells us why ballots are rejected, why ballots are cast as provisional, so that we can analyze that and then develop better training guides?
Let's take you on the mystery of Seth Rich.
The murder of Seth Rich occurred July 10th, 2016 at 4:30 a.m. in the Bloomingdale neighborhood of Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Now, in a statement on the DNC's website, Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz writes, "Our hearts are broken with the loss of one of our DNC family members over the weekend. Seth Rich was a dedicated, selfless public servant who worked tirelessly to protect the most sacred right we share as Americans, the right to vote."
The 27-year-old Rich was an employee of the Democratic National Committee, DNC, and his murder spawned many theories that Rich may have leaked the emails that would reveal the DNC had manipulated the 2016 primary elections.
WikiLeaks released thousands of emails from the DNC appearing to show favoritism towards Hillary Clinton. So the big question, could this create chaos on the convention floor among Bernie Sanders supporters?
The Clinton campaign thought it had successfully put that bitter primary battle behind her. The Democrats get ready to start their convention. Leaked emails from the Democratic National Committee now show that Sanders may have been right all along when he claimed the party had its thumb on the scale for Clinton.
Rigged is when somebody changes the rules in the middle of the game.
WikiLeaks, the internet watchdog group, leaked 20,000 emails from 7 top DNC officials during primary season. Does he believe in a God, wondered one official? He had skated on saying he has a Jewish heritage. I think I read he's an atheist. This could make several points difference with my peeps. Some DNC officials refer to Sanders as the insurgency, and DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz referred to Sanders' campaign manager as an Sanders made no secret of his contempt for Wasserman Schultz, telling CNN in May he would fire her.
In all due respect to the current chairperson, if elected president, she would not be reappointed to be chair of the DNC.
According to the leaked emails, Wasserman Schultz decided not to respond to that, writing, "This is a silly story. He isn't going to be president."
Seth Rich was an active Bernie Sanders supporter.
The Washington Post would investigate Rich.
Seth was a staffer at the Democratic National Committee, and one night in July when he was walking home, he was unexpectedly and tragically killed, and ever since we have been looking for the killer.
My friend, do you have a second? I'm sorry to bother you. You have 1 second. Sorry to bother you, man. We're just trying to find out who did it.
A robbery gone wrong would be very unlikely for a lot of reasons. One, he had a gold chain around his neck. He had a wallet with cash and credit cards. He had a watch. Nothing was taken. This is curious, mysterious, and many other things. We just don't know. My first job is to get closure for the family. I mean, obviously we want the guy to fry in Wesson oil. But the reality is, as I've explained to the family, you know, with each passing 30-day period, getting a conviction gets tougher. But what I really want is closure for the family.
Yeah.
From what we gather from what we've heard from the detectives and what we learned from Kelsey, he was talking to her. She heard some noise on the phone. She said, "Are you okay? Are you home?" He says, "Yeah, I'm home." And then it's, "I have to call you back." And we don't know what happened there, except he ended up shot twice in the back, and they said he was talking to the officers when they first got there. He was maybe stable when he got to the hospital.
We believe someone came from behind him. Was he pushed down? What the struggle was? There's no surveillance yet that we have heard of or anything. We know the police are looking for that, but we may never know what actually.
The WikiLeaks founder claims it was not a robbery.
So that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States, and that our sources are, you know, our sources face serious risks. That's why they come to us, so we can protect their anonymity.
But it's quite something to suggest a murder. That's basically what you're doing.
Well, others have suggested that. We are investigating to understand what happened in that situation with Seth Rich. I think it is a concerning situation. There's not a conclusion yet. We wouldn't be willing to state a conclusion, but we are concerned about it. And more importantly, a variety of WikiLeaks sources are concerned when that kind of thing happens.
Former interim chair for the Democratic Party claimed she was scared of Hillary Clinton. She dedicated part of her book to Seth Rich. She claimed the party treated her like a slave.
Were the Russians involved, in your opinion, I know this hadn't been resolved yet, in Seth Rich's death? Yes, no, or I don't know?
I don't know. I'm not part of the investigative team, but I can tell you this much, and thank you for asking about Seth. He was my child. I loved him. He worked in the Voting Rights Division. I was the vice chair over that division. He was one of two staff people. I love him. I miss him. He was a patriot, and I hope to God we find out who murdered Seth Rich.
You wrote in the book you feel responsible for his death.
Because he was my child.
Who killed Seth Rich and why? We will continue to follow this story until we have the answers.